Hey, and welcome back. I've made a few videos over the last year giving a behind-the-scenes look at some of the different opportunities I have as a freelance musician. One of the more underrated gigs I regularly do is playing in house of worship settings, filling in at various churches across my region. I don't actually hold down a regular chair playing every week at one church, and for a lot of churches, I'm more of a last call resort to fill in when their regular volunteer drummers can't participate. I do find pretty consistent work filling in as a substitute across 4 or 5 different churches within my region, and I thought it'd be fun to take you along this week and show you the process from start to end. So this process all starts with me getting a request. This can be a text message, an email, or a phone call, but in most cases, it's actually receiving an automated request through a site called Planning Center. Planning Center is an amazing organizational tool primarily used within the church community. It manages and schedules all the positions on a given Sunday, details the order of flow for each service, lays out times for rehearsals and sound checks, and of course, shares the songs attached to each service with access to charts, reference recordings, and anything else pertinent towards executing a set of music. Pretty much every church I play at uses this program, and most additionally include access to a companion app called Music Stand, which is great for iPad users to organize and edit charts associated with each individual church they play at. So after accepting this invitation, it might seem like my next step would be to begin working on the music, but as it's only Tuesday, I'll actually wait to get started with this. It's not because I'm a procrastinator or lazy, but I've prepped many worship sets 5 to 6 days in advance, and a couple of times have been burnt by the set list changing as the week goes on. Sometimes this is due to a singer getting sick, or a need to change the message of the songs to more closely line up with a sermon, but I've learned to not spend too much time too early and be disappointed when things change. So at this point, my prep is done until at least Friday or Saturday. So once I'm positive the set list is firmly in place, I'll typically sit down with my iPad and begin looking through the songs and learning everything I need to successfully get through the service. As you can see from my first flip through the service, I already have annotations on all these charts, which means I've played them previously. So at this point, most of my prep would actually be finished. But in the spirit of taking you behind the scenes, let me take this chance to start over on this first song for the service, Unstoppable God. Now everyone does this their own unique way, but over the years I've developed a set of markings and quick shorthand notes that works well for me. I use phrases like kick 4 to note that I play just kick drum on all 4 downbeats, and I'll add in small rhythmic cues for hits or fills. I typically highlight all of my cues to make them stand out a bit more, and if it's on the first time playing through a section, I'll highlight that in yellow. You'll see a few more notes like plus SN on 2-4 to note that I'm adding backbeats on the snare to the kicks I'm already playing, and as we get to the second page, you'll see I add parentheses around a measure where I don't play. Instead of writing actual drum notation, I'll try to use a series of words to describe a groove like halftime rock on crashes. If something is too specific to write in words, I can easily add notation, but this works really well for quick, simple parts. When it comes time to play through a section on repeat for a second time, I'll change my highlighting to blue to make it clear it's second time only. For this song, it was much of the same going through the chart. And when it came time to chart out the bridge, you'll see I describe how my part changes on each repeat using the same color coding to make it clear on my eyes when it comes time to read this on the gig. As this tune went from the bridge to the final chorus, you can see I added a red crescendo over the measure, and for me, this signals a build-up, typically eighth notes between the snare and floor tom, which is a super common fill or transition in music. When it gets to the end, I try to clearly mark with a highlighter where I drop out and whether it's a tight ending, a sustained crash ringing out, or a trash can ending, which is a term I've really only heard in the church world to describe those endings where you ring on the cymbals and such in a dramatic hold. Once I have the chart noted, I can take this over to the drums and practice if need be, but honestly, in my position, I usually can be completely prepared just by listening through and adding my notes where needed. After that, it's pretty much rinse and repeat for the rest of the set, and with most churches doing worship sets of anywhere from 3 to 5 songs, it's not typically a ton of material to work through. At the church I'm playing at this weekend, we play 3 songs at the top of a service, all to a click and backing tracks, and then come back later in the service to play one song during communion, and finally, an abbreviated version of the opening song to send people on their way once the service has concluded. So at this point, I'm pretty much ready to go, and of course on this specific weekend, I have a late Saturday night gig. I played till midnight with my funk band, the Pocket Kings, and after we finished playing, I spent over an hour getting packed up with drums, PA, and lights, and didn't end up making it home until closer to 2 a.m. I do often leave gear in my car overnight, but with it being January and being around 0 degrees outside, I felt like I couldn't leave my drums or sound equipment in my car out in the freezing cold. So I spent another 15 to 20 minutes unloading everything and then packing up everything I'd need for Sunday morning so I wouldn't have to worry about it bright and early. For me, this includes my iPad for charts, in-ear monitors, sticks, and for this service, brushes. I also usually bring along my laptop because throughout Sunday there's plenty of downtime where I can get some work done if need be. I'll typically wake up around 6:15 or 6:20 in order to have enough time to take a shower and get ready to leave. I don't think I need to share too many clips of that process, so here's a shot of me brushing my teeth and cleaning my glasses. After gathering everything up, I usually make it out of the house by 6:45 or so, giving me a little extra time to make the hour-long drive up to Green Bay and arrive before soundcheck and rehearsal begins at 8 a.m. Since I had a little extra time on this day, I made a pit stop at Starbucks before getting too far along, because with only 3 hours of sleep the night before, coffee is a must. Once I get going, I take this time to listen through all the songs on the set for the week again, and get this music in my head and mentally run through playing these songs. When I was a younger musician, I think I needed that physical practice behind the drums to really feel comfortable performing songs for a show or service, but with my years of experience in this kind of setting, I can really get away with just listening and using my notes to get me through playing this music. Since this only takes 20 to 30 minutes, it leaves me plenty of time on these drives to catch up on podcasts, get some last-minute fantasy football advice during the NFL season, and enjoy a bit of the view for the sunrise. I pulled into church around 7:45 and made my way indoors to get set up. You may recognize a few of the other musicians in this worship band, and that's because this church chooses to hire all professionals for their worship team. It ends up being a number of people I work with regularly outside of the sacred music setting as well. Most churches have house drums and cymbals set up and ready to go, and sure, if I felt really compelled, I could probably bring in my own cymbals, but the church's sound engineer would hate me if I messed up the setup and tones that are already dialed in, so I'm happy to just use whatever's here. Here at the church I'm playing at today, they have a great Pearl Masters kit with a set of Zildjian K cymbals. This setup is really positioned in a way that the regular drummer prefers, so when I come in, I try not to mess with it too much, but I might tinker with a few things like the throne height if I need to, in order to be comfortable. Over to the left side of the drums, attached to a music stand, I have a personal mixer to adjust the levels of everybody in my in-ear monitors, and this is such a luxury in these settings. Once everyone else arrives, we get going pretty quickly with rehearsal, and since everybody here is a pro and shows up prepared, we typically run each song just once, and if there are mistakes, it's understood that you'll have that worked out by the first service. All in all, we'll spend around 30 to 40 minutes max running tunes and getting any levels adjusted we need to before heading back to the green room prior to the first service. I'm friends with pretty much everybody in this crew, so it's great to catch up and hang before the service, but oftentimes I take this downtime to get some work done, like mixing tracks for my videos or getting some details in place for gigs coming up later in the week. A few minutes before 9, we head out back into the sanctuary and take our places on stage, and right at 9 a.m. we kick off the worship set. Growing up, the music at my traditional Catholic church wasn't that lively or similar to pop music of the time, but in today's world, contemporary Christian music has come a long way. Here's a few clips of the opening segment to show you what the set sounded like.
It's like holy water. Your forgiveness, all things new, and I will follow you forward.
Once we wrap up the worship set, we head back to the green room again and hang out until we're all called back to play for communion. After that single song, we stay out for the rest of the service, which is only another 5 to 10 minutes, and then play an abbreviated version of the opening song to send people home. Within 20 to 30 minutes, the congregation clears out and the next group arrives for our 10:30 service, and the whole process repeats over again. And just to prove to you that I actually recorded these 2 services, here's a clip of that same song with the crazy 2-bar drum fill that feels like an eternity. So once we finish the second service, we're free to pack up our things and head home. This usually happens between 11:30 and 11:45. And for me, it's time to make the hour-long drive back to Oshkosh and try to find time for a nap. I really enjoy the work I get to do in house of worship settings because the music is fun, the tech setup is top-notch, and it's very meaningful to the audience there to connect with their faith. Additionally, as a working musician making a career in this field, there aren't a ton of gigging opportunities that wrap up by noon on a Sunday, and on plenty of Sundays, I can double or triple up and play even more gigs to maximize my earning potential. With that said, I think it's important to add that even though I'm just a hired gun or a sub in these settings, I try to be extremely respectful to the situation, as it's obviously a very powerful experience for plenty of people who choose to come and worship to the music I'm allowed to play. I hope this video gives you a feel for what my experience is like drumming in a house of worship setting, and can be a helpful tool for you if you're looking to expand your opportunities as a musician, especially in a freelance market. If you're also involved in worship music, I'd love to hear about your experience in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more weekly content just like this. And until next time, thanks.